Hi, I'm Mike Marino, and this is a brand new episode of Live from My Mother's Basement. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, depending on when you're listening or watching the show. This is another edition of my podcast, Live from My Mother's Basement. Now, unfortunately, another time we're doing a pre-record that's not in the basement. I wish we were in the basement. My guests would love to see the basement. But we're here in my studio in Los Angeles, California, and I have a very special guest on the show today. This is Natalie Rodriguez. Did I say it correctly?
Yes, you did.
Rodriguez. She's really a Los Angelino for real, because you don't get to meet that many. Mm-hmm. And she's a director of film, I want to say television, in all aspects of the showbiz area. And thank you so much for coming. Shake my hand. Thank you for coming in the makeshift basement.
Of course. Thank you for having me here.
What we're going to do is we're going to rewind, because we've been doing a series of having people who are behind the scenes in show business. You know, we had a lot of actors on the show. We've had a lot of comedians on the show. We laugh, we joke, we do stupid shit. We got some lawyers, some doctors, some influencers. But I think it became even more interesting to so many of my fans and friends and family members who want to know, how did a movie get made? How did that person become a director? Why did that person become the director? I think, one of the most hardest fields in show business to be in. The person who's behind the camera, who tells the story by telling the crew, this is what I need to see. And then the actors do what the director says, and hopefully we hit a home run, and they're not difficult.
We always hope.
She laughed.
I have some stories on
Yes.
those.
Oh, good. We won't say any names, but you could tell us the story.
Yeah, definitely will.
So let's go back. Born and raised California, but we're in Los Angeles. So tell us, where exactly is that?
Yeah, no, of course. Born and raised in the state of California. I grew up in Inland Empire. I always say it's going towards San Bernardino, but not as far out. So maybe from where we're at in Los Angeles, it's about an hour.
So for people who are not from California, put your hands on my table. It shakes the camera.
There we go.
So people who are not from California, we've got a lot of people who watch from England and Europe and Australia and all, got Germany, France. You say the word Inland Empire. Yeah. And to even for me, who from New Jersey, I'm like, the Inland Empire. What is that? Is that the capital of California, the Inland Empire? Because it sounds fierce.
It does. No, it does.
And then San Bernardino, most people won't even know. That's kind of like the desert to me.
It is. That is the desert. I even consider Inland Empire almost the desert, because it's going towards, it's beautiful. I mean, suburban, you get your nice houses, but you are a drive from like the beach, LA. You have to make that commute coming down this way. But I grew up there, and I think growing up there, I was like the reverse. Like I grew up, when I went to school with my friends, it was always, ooh, why do you want to be in Hollywood? Like, why do you want to pursue the entertainment world? But I think because growing so far away from that, it just only like heightens my interest. Like, I have to get out there, City of Angels, and I got to see what's out there. I want to, like, the city life always was exciting to me.
I could see that, and I can understand that, because from the little that I know about San Bernardino, you're going to drive an hour, God knows which way, on like the 60 or the 90 or some
the 10,
weird...
I think the 10 freeway.
And then you're in the middle of nowhere. You see trains that are going from here in Palm Springs or whatnot. You see a lot of stuff that's like beige and brown and looks like Arizona. And you would think that no one down there has anything to do with show business. They might not even want to go see a movie. There's other outside interests. I don't know, like horses and ranches, right?
Yeah, going out that way. You can see some horses and
So as a little
ranches.
kid growing up, you probably had a big affection for movies.
I did.
And you told your parents, I'm going to Hollywood, or I'm going to direct one of those movies. And they looked at you and said, no, you're not.
Yeah. I had those parents. I had, growing up, I used to think that was unfair. But as I got older, I'm like, I actually, especially my mother, I'm like, I understand why she wanted me to stay away from her. Because even to this day, I hop on a phone call if my mom asks, oh, like, what's that you're posting on social media? It's a film you did, and I'll explain to her, and her response is like, yeah, I don't understand like why you're doing this. Sometimes it sounds so stressful. I'm like, no, it is, but at this point, I think you just have to have, that thick skin of like not taking things personal, or it's like you got to get the job done, right?
Oh.
I mean, got to get the job done. You know, you got to protect the project, whatever the project is, you know, movie, TV show, I mean, even podcast, books. So I think my mom, she always tells me, she's like, I wish, she's like, I now accepted you're not going to become a doctor or a nurse, because that was the job she was trying to push me into.
Might have been harder to do that.
I think so. I have some friends that are not doctors, nurses, and they're the school. I mean, you hear those years and years of schools and study, and they're like, I hate it. Most of them do hate it because of the stress. And
Well, how old were you, and when did you decide that, you know what, I think I would like to go behind the camera, and I'd like to be the person that puts together a movie, whether you wrote it,
yeah,
whether you just wanted to read somebody else's script and say, hey, could I direct that?
yeah,
Plus, we're also in a business where you don't always get a job because you're good at what you do. You might have to create it and then go find the financing from somebody who says, hey, I like what you're doing. Here's some money. Go ahead and go shoot it, and then hope you get something incredible out of it. So were you like in junior high, high school?
So for me, the earliest memory I have, I was around 9 years old. I actually had approached my biological dad. He had a friend at the time that did stunt work for Michael Bay's Transformers, and it was Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, and that was the first time I heard someone like I met that worked in movies. His name was Ivan. It was my dad's friend growing up, and Ivan was like, yeah, I just did this film with like Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett, and it ended up being Pearl Harbor. And I remember when he brought over, because he brought over like a still of him. He played one of the background guys like in the war who got killed. He signed it, and for some reason, just that piece of paper was like, oh, whoa, like this guy actually was like on set with these people that we see on the big screen. So I think it was being young. It was that, oh yeah, those people are just like us. Like this is their 9 to 5, right? They go to work, and the fact you can make a living like Ivan does, the stuntman, that's so cool. So I actually was tiptoeing around asking my dad. It took me about maybe like a few months before I asked him, hey, so you know what Ivan does? He does stunt work. Yeah, so like how do you get into that? And I was like so embarrassed to ask my dad about that. I think because it was not talked about. I'm assuming, growing up, I didn't have relatives that were in any type of art forms. Just, not that I'm aware of, but I don't think, a lot of my relatives, they didn't want to pursue entertainment. It was always like doctor, be a teacher, kind of, jobs that my mother was trying to pursue me, encouraging me to go that route. But I think it was, I was about 9 years old. And then years later, my parents told me they have this memory where I told them both, and I was around 4 or 5. They said, yeah, you told us you want to be like Steven Spielberg, you want to direct. And we thought, oh, that's cute. Like, she's just having a dream. Like, she's just having that's a cool fantasy dream. But it was, I think, always going to my parents, it was, no, I want to be on the creator side. I want to write. I want to make movies. And that didn't really hit, at least my mother, when I was a junior in high school. Because that's when, I think they still do it till this day. They will talk about college before you go to junior year with your guidance counselor. And that was the first time, I think, being asked at that age by my guidance counselor, what do you want to do for the rest of your life? And my answer was, I want to make movies. I want to write and direct. And I think at that time, my mom was in the office with me too. And she was like, oh no, I wish she would say doctor, medical. But no, my answer was still, no, I got to pursue this. What do I do? So I was lucky I had a guidance counselor that was encouraging. She helped me pick. At the time, I'm one of those cliches. I went to film school. But, I got to admit, I also did try to take advantage of taking like every art class there at Cal State Fullerton where I went. So that kind of was the snowball effect. I think it was just always, it was like that thing in me.
Cal State Fullerton's very far from the Inland Empire, isn't it?
It is, yes.
So what did
quite a distance.
Would you commute, or you went to the...
I did commute.
Holy shit.
I drove, it's about like an hour and a half. And there's kind of like LA, there was one way only to get there, so
yeah, you're in
there was
traffic.
an accident. You had to just
you're
go
missing
around.
your class. Cal State
Did
Fullerton
happen.
is, I would say that's, Northern California?
I think it's Orange County. I think technically it's going like a little more south. So it's definitely more south than Los Angeles, going towards the beach.
Oh.
Disneyland. Cal State Fullerton's not that far from
I meant
Disneyland.
from the Inland Empire. You would
I
have to
believe
go north?
South.
South.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know that it's far. I know it's a famous school, and there's a lot of people who come out of that school and have become very successful in the entertainment business and I guess a lot of other businesses. I mean, of course, I cut my teeth in the industry in the beginning in New York and New Jersey, where everything was a bus, and it took the bus or the train, and it was 20 minutes, and away you went. Then you come to California, and you're driving for hours to get almost anywhere. But most people who are in this business come to Los Angeles. It's not like you're going to hear somebody from New York going, I think I'll go to the Inland Empire and pursue my career as a director.
Yeah.
However, what I do know about that area is it's almost like a shooter's paradise. If you're a filmmaker, there's so many different places that are historic.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, maybe you can get a set for free or buy somebody's lunch.
Yeah, that's kind of the neat part is post-college, I was filming at home. So I lived in Glendora. It's still part of the Inland Empire / very east side of LA County. And I was kind of thinking, you know, you'd film like a movie somewhere like Glendora. If people saw cameras or crew coming, it wasn't like anyone was calling the cops. That was kind of the neat part. And, you know, people, if they would watch, they'd sometimes watch. And half the time we did have people come up to the crew, include myself. Hey, what are you guys doing? And it was, we're filming a movie. It was, that's so cool. Which network and studio is this going for? So it was very glitz and glam. So I agree. We would get deals sometimes, or people would just say, yeah, just show up at this time. Like, you can have an hour to film here if you need to.
Yeah. Get locations for free.
Yeah.
Whereas the same identical type of location in Hollywood costs you $10,000 a day.
At least.
So when you were done with college, how did you actually pursue your career? I don't even know how anybody pursues a career as a director. I mean, as an actor, you go out on auditions.
Yeah, no, definitely.
You find an agent. Maybe the agent will get you an audition or your friends. But how does a director do it? Like, how do you say, well, this is what I want to do, and how do you create a show reel, a resume? How do you do it?
Definitely. For me, it was always, I try to watch every film there was, especially in college. I was focusing on classes. I had those block classes that were like, I think production courses were like 3 to 4 hours. So it was hard doing some film classes. It was not having physical time to like go and work like a part-time job. And my mom was very supportive. You know, she was go to college. She's like, you don't have to work a part-time job. Just focus on graduating and just, you know, write whatever you need to off school hours. And that's what I did. Graduating college, I actually immediately got into, it's probably a little controversial to talk about, but I actually was part of Studio 4. It was part of James Franco's school. I think he had it over here in North Hollywood Arts District on Magnolia.
James, I'm not familiar
the
with
actor,
it.
yeah.
James Franco had a school?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't anymore?
No, he doesn't. That actually closed down.
Oh, what happened?
So I'm like, it's a little controversial.
Oh, is it? That's okay. You could talk about it if it's common knowledge to other people.
It is, and it's out there in public database too. So I think when I was about to graduate college, I saw, this is when I feel celebrities were starting to use Instagram, like public, you know, posting about their films, or they're doing like, hey, I'm doing a book signing here. And James Franco was posting about, oh, I'm opening up a school where I'm going to be mentoring people, you know, up-and-comer actors and filmmakers. And that was like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing. Like someone who is at the time, I mean, God, I think back then he was, already Oscar nominated. I think that was fresh off of like the Seth Rogen movies, like Pineapple Express. So he was like, to me, I saw it as like, that's a big deal. You know, if you have someone that's a working actor / jack of all trades training you, that's like the perfect, you know, like how to get, you know, my feet wet. Because I was, you know, looking at that as, well, let me get, you know, scripts I've written I've never sent to friends and colleagues. Let me take it to this classroom. And that's what I did. I took 2 classes there. One was a screenwriting class, and we did it like kind of any writer's room. Classmates would read your script in person, and they would give you feedback. Sometimes it could be brutal. It was, hey, I don't understand this, or if you pitched ideas, you're like, oh, I know this is the script I want to write, and then your classmates would want you to write the other story. You're like, oh, that was made up on the spot. So
yeah, I hate when people.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what I think of your script. Hold it. Have you ever written one?
Yeah, some of them are brutal, and I mean, sometimes I got brutal feedback, or other times, you know, I'd hear things like with other classmates, and you're like, oh gosh, like. But again, I think I'm glad that happened, because it's that cliche saying, I wanted to learn that then and there, so. You know, if it's learning, well, you can't take it personal, you know, when someone's being genuine about the feedback versus like, ooh, that seems a little harsh. It don't seem like it's coming from a good place. Yeah.
So you've written your own scripts.
Yes.
And then You're pursuing your career here in Los Angeles. Did you move to LA, or are you still out there in the Inland Empire?
No, I moved to LA about 2019, right before the pandemic.
Okay, so
Yeah.
well, that's a good time to move.
I know, right? And then, of course,
Let's go to LA now while it's closed.
Yeah, well, it's closed. But I was trying to get out to LA sooner. So even when I was growing up, my mom, when she got married, when my parents split, she got remarried to my stepdad, Jeff. And, they were both, if I can be blunt, they both at the time were making well money. So when I started taking the James Franco class, I befriended, a lot of people that lived in LA. And the question was always from my classmates or friends I met through the James Franco school, it was, what are you doing out in Glendora and Inland Empire? Like, move to LA. So I never thought about that at the time. It was, well, I'm just going to make the commute. I'll just have to roll up my sleeves, do that hour to 2 hour drive, and then I just get home late, right? I'll make it work. But yeah, I had classmates I thought I was insane for making that drive. So I approached actually both my stepdad and mom. After hearing from classmates, just go to your parents, ask them if they can help you. Went to them, they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And I was like, well, how come? Like, can you help out? And it was, no, figure out on your own. Like, and it was, at the time, I thought it was brutal, but I'm glad they didn't, because I think having parents, and again, nothing against people that have parents that are like, we'll help you set up in LA, we'll pay rent X amount of time. I say if they offer you that, take it. But if you have parents or guardians who are like, no, I'm not going to do that, I think it made me feel a lot more motivated. Like, okay, I just got to plan out schedule accordingly. I got to fit in time to write every morning. Even if it's a script I feel that's terrible, I just got to get up and do it just to, that was like setting rules for myself, day-to-day task. And especially driving to LA for the James Franco School, I think being around, people that lived out here, it, was networking. You start finding out more things.
What happened with this James Franco
Yeah.
school? How long did you go there?
So that was, it was under a year, maybe like 5-6 months. And then they
What
closed.
were you supposed to do? A whole year of training? I mean,
So they had crash courses. It was like around 3 to 4 months each. The first screening class was 3 months. I then got into, according to my teacher from the James Franco School, he said, I like that you write very heavy dramas and very dark material. So I referred you to James's first master class, and that was an actual class that James was teaching. And that was called Sex Scene Study. So it was about making projects that were about either, romance or, couples that hated each other, and got to come up with the story. And that kind of snowballed from there. It was getting into that class because you took a previous class at the school. But they closed, I want to say, maybe about a year after that, because fortunately, James, he got into a lot of scandal, like dating, I think, like some of his students. I had a classmate for my sex scenes class. They actually ended up suing him. So definitely hearing that was brutal.
Did you meet him? Did he teach your class?
I did, yes.
He seemed like
He
a
was my
nice
teacher.
guy. I mean,
He was interesting. He was very shy and a little bizarre. He was definitely, I feel like rumors are true. He would fall asleep in class sometimes. Because I didn't notice that until a buddy of mine tapped on my shoulder one day during a screener. He's like, I think James is snoring, because he had his head back against the wall, like tilted. But at the time,
how was your teacher? Well, I think he was dreaming about my project.
But he seemed, I think at the time, like many, I'm sure I can speak for like a lot of the students. I mean, I was a fan of his work. I admired, that hustle. I was like someone who's, they're on these multi-million-dollar projects and they're taking time to give back. I thought that was coming from a good place of heart, but unfortunately it wasn't. So that was actually, I think, the first lesson learning, because especially it's like fresh out of, college, I'm in my earlier 20s. It's like, I feel a situation like that could have made or break a lot of people. It's, oh God, I got to quit because, someone like James Franco is, doing this to students, like everyone's bad. But, it didn't. It was like, okay, this is just someone obviously keep distance from, they're not pure. Their intentions are not, aligned with your own.
So weird.
It is.
So weird.
It was
well,
very
I hope you got
bizarre.
something out of the class. So how do you pursue, and what's your first project? How many projects have you done? Did you write them? Did you get to direct somebody else's project? Which I think would be cool. You read somebody else's thing and you're like, yeah, I know what to do. Or this is stupid. Why are you trying to make this?
It's funny. So I've only directed stuff I've written or co-written. It's always been a dream of mine to direct something that I haven't touched at all writing wise. I've always been wanting to do that. And I actually have a meeting set up this upcoming weekend with a colleague of mine. He asked me to help produce a script of his, and I thought he wanted to be a director, but he said, I want to talk about you directing this. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, yeah. And even if it doesn't work out, I think just having that meeting set up is really fun because, I've been directing since about 10 years now. I mean, I always say, even if you think they're shorts that are terrible, they suck, and you're like, oh gosh. I mean, back then it was pulled, your friends together. You've had friends referring friends for roles behind the scenes in front of the camera.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how I got those made. It was just forcing myself, take that meeting.
I love the whole mingle situation. Yeah. So you can get a job because you didn't jump through a bunch of hoops. You knew somebody who said, you know what, you're really good. You're perfect for this. You're going to help out. How do we make this happen?
Yeah.
So tell us about your first directorial debut on any project at all.
Yeah,
Short?
Of course. It was a
full
short.
length, right?
So I did a short with actually it was an acting classmate I had. Well, I think it was fresh after college. She was still in college. It was that summer. So when was this? Like, oh gosh, like 2014, like summer 2014. I wrote a short and it was called The Scars of Our Lives. And The Scars of Our Lives was dealing with suicide awareness. And I've always been huge, with...
Who wrote it?
I did.
You wrote it?
Yeah. I wrote it and...
Scars for Life.
Yeah.
Suicide
awareness, yeah.
Brutal subject matter to attack. Okay, go ahead.
And I took it to a friend. She was kind of same thing, I had a friend who I met in acting class, and she wanted to do editing and camera work, and I was like, I should go ask her. Her name's Charmaine, and we were still, friends until this day. I was like, Charmaine, I wrote the script. Do you want to help me make it? And she was like, okay, yeah, sure. And that's what it was. We were two, 20-something-year-olds. We were driving around her neighborhood looking for, it had to take place at a bus stop, but we ended up cheating a park to make it look like a bus stop.
So the whole scene is at a bus stop?
It's at a park, actually, but yes.
Park.
Supposed to be a bus stop where two people meet. Yeah.
So the whole scene is in one location?
It is, yes. One location.
That's genius.
Which is...
So it's in dialogue that carries the project.
Dialogue.
That's really, really great. I mean, I always...
4 minute short. I want to say about 4 minutes.
I always wanted to be in a project like that. Whereas, you're just doing the script. I have no stake in the game. And I just get to perform an intense subject matter. I can only imagine what it read like.
Yeah, no, that was very surreal because I didn't do any rehearsals leading up to that and that's kind of notorious when you're directing, and whether you're directing your own work you wrote, or you're directing someone else's material. Yeah, written, like written.
I haven't written much lately.
I haven't written much. No, I say, I write, but I have terrible grammar. I'll be the first to admit that.
Oh, I talk really good.
Yeah. You're like, it's different when it translates. But that's what happened, I'm kind of used to that. And it was good first experience training. I had 2 actors. They're busy. Even though it was like a 4-minute short and 3 pages of dialogue with the 2 actors, it was, okay, well, when we get to set, we'll rehearse as Charmaine, my cinematographer, the camera, and, sound are setting up. And that was how it happened. It was get to location, rehearse, go through the lines.
When you do a project like that, what was everybody just doing it for fun?
Yeah.
Whatever the reason would be. It's like they're not getting paid. This is maybe not for fun, but for resume, tape, like a college project. I mean, they don't have this anymore, but when I was cutting my teeth in New York, you got on audition, you found it in the trade paper, and it would say copy and meal provided. Yeah. That's what you were working for, because everybody was trying to get in the game. So it's that type of thing?
It was.
Yeah.
It was copy credit.
Copy credit and meals.
Which is now so, looking back, I was grateful. I think what got those actors was... The actress I met, the lead in The Scars of Our Lives, I met her at some mixer like 2 months before. She was there by herself, and she was looking at me and my friends. And I was like, hey, you want to come join us? We're just here mingling. And that, I've talked to her. And again, it was meeting someone at a Saturday brunch mixer. And she was telling me, I want to be a singer. I want to act. I just haven't had the opportunities. And that's when I was like, well, I'm looking for an actress for this role. You might be a good fit. Can you audition for me? And she sent a self-tape. And as for the actor who played in The Scars of Our Lives, I actually met him through the James Franco School. We had some classes together. And he always done like comedy performances. So that's what attracted me to approach him for a dramatic role. I'm a big firm believer. Comedians know how to adapt to something that is dramatic.
You want to say that again?
I think comedians, they can adapt seamlessly doing a dramatic performance.
Boom.
I think I believe it.
From a director.
I believe it. Because that was Jeff. Jeff was the one that was in my first short, and I thought he did amazing. I mean, he did comedy up until that point, and when I reached out to him, I told him that. I was like, no, you do comedy, but I just get this gut instinct that you could do this. I'm not going to audition you. It's yours. And he accepted it within like 5 hours. You're like, let me read it. Okay, yeah, I'll do it. When, where? So I think that's how most of my shorts got made. It was going to people, approaching them, and I would just be honest with them. Like with Jeff and Josephine, the actors in The Scars of Our Lives, it was, hey, I really think you can do this role. Send me a self-tape, or let's meet in person and read the script together. I'll read with you. So that's your audition. Or with Jeff, someone who already knew, I'd seen perform various times on stage in class. It was like, okay, he can do it. I trust him. So I think with directing, it's also trusting your actors, as cliche as that is, but it really is, of intuition. There's like this person, that's how I always work off until this day. It's, I just feel this person can do it. And even if everyone else is like, no, you're insane. It's like, listen to me.
Talent.
I'm like, listen to me.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm the director.
Yeah.
Listen to me.
No, you also got to take input. I am flexible when it comes to that too.
So these shorts that you've created, and I hope you've created many, and they go into festivals.
Yeah.
What was your favorite festival, favorite short, favorite project?
My favorite festival. Ooh, it would probably have to be, and I'd love to do another film like this. It was my first comedy I wrote and directed, and it was called The D. It means the D for douchebag. And at the time, social media
Can we
was
say
big.
douchebag?
Yeah, the douchebag.
I've always said douchebag.
I think we can.
I thought it was a Jersey thing when we were kids. Oh, that guy's a douchebag.
Oh, no, that was even where I was at in Inland Empire's high school.
The D for douchebag.
Everyone said that.
That's
like a lot of the guys would call each other that in high school.
Ugh.
But that was my favorite because it was all male ensemble cast.
Really?
In their 20s. And that was a script.
And a female director.
Well, the thing is, I was so intimidated at the time. We shot it back in 2016, and then we did a sequel follow-up about 2 years later. And I was trying to find a male director. And it's sad because looking back, I'm like, wow, I was doubting myself. I'm like, oh, I'm a woman. I can't, direct these 3 20-something-year-old men in this type of project. It was like, oh, I have to get a male director. And I actually had a buddy. It was after like months of trying to find a director for the douchebag project. I had a male colleague sit me down and he said, yeah, I read your script. And I'm like, oh God, he's going to rip it apart. He hates it. And he passed over a hard copy I brought him. And he's like, I think you need to direct this. He's like, I don't know. But he's like, I was reading it and I felt like you have camera direction in there. And he's like, he told me I'd feel terrible if I would help you out on this directing wise and I would just completely ruin your vision. And I feel that's a good colleague friend. You want someone who's going to advocate for you to do that. So I took his advice and I think a year later, we were already like in post-production with that film.
I work like this. This is my thoughts in this business.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're a female or a male or whatever your preference is.
Yeah.
Are you good at what you do?
Right.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Now, if I was to work with a female director, which I have many, many times, you say to yourself, I might not have seen it that way. I'm glad she did. Let's try it. Perfect.
Yeah.
Tatiana, who produces the podcast, I call and ask for notes.
Yeah.
What'd you think? Am I coming across okay?
Yeah.
Give me notes.
Yeah.
And then she does.
Yeah.
What do you think of this guest? She'll pick the guest.
Yeah.
This reason works. This reason doesn't. So it doesn't matter to me that she's a female. She's good at what she does.
Yeah.
And, there are things that someone her age and someone my age wouldn't see the same thing.
Right. Yeah.
Because I'll be like, oh, man, that girl was hot. And she'll be like, you can't say that. I go, well, that's not the way I meant it.
Yeah.
I meant hot at what she does. No, don't say that. Well, shit.
Yeah.
It's really not what I meant. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It would be saying she's really, really good, but you said hot.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny because we're doing that right now with the feature we're casting for. It's actually something I'm working on with your lovely producer.
Oh, we're going to talk about that. We're going to get to
Yeah.
that.
But I was gonna say I talked about that this past weekend with and again I'm the same way too. It's you're male, you're female, non-binary. You don't have a specific gender. I'm the same way. It's like if you're passionate, you're excited when I reach out and you're like, let's do this project. That's who I hire. It's like if they see the vision, or I've learned too, especially with directing, there's no shame in like taking feedback, because that's what you bring people on for crew. Like with your wonderful producer, she's gonna do hair and makeup, and we already worked together on a sizzle for this feature, and I told her, well, this is what I'm looking for, and she's like, okay, great. And then a few minutes later, okay, well, I kind of added in this part for the makeup. I think it heightens what you're looking for, and I feel that's the way to work with people. It's you'll know when they're coming in with their expertise and they're saying like trying to make it pop. It's like they're adding that dazzle to it more.
That's great. Yeah. So what was the project that you worked on with Tatiana that got her to work on the next one?
Yes, it's called Inner Child. It's a psychological.
That's the new one that you're doing.
Yes.
All right, tell us about Inner Child.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a thriller or a horror or chop somebody up in the parking lot?
Right. And as you know, I'm wearing the Shining carpet, so I'm like, just seems a little fitting for today from Jack Nicholson. Yeah. I'm like, not many people picked up on it. I wore it at a horror convention center last weekend, and only 2 people picked up on it. They're like, hey, Stanley Hotel. I'm like, yeah.
Wait a minute. Is that what it's for?
Mm-hmm.
You bought it because it's supposed to be, or it was a coincidence?
No, it's supposed to be. I found it on Etsy. That's where I get all my merchandise.
Etsy?
Yeah. Etsy.
What is that?
Etsy is a small business. They have like people that make customized shirts, hats, buttons, pens.
So you had it made?
Mm-hmm.
You said, I want a dress that replicas the rug in The Shining.
Yeah. Because she had...
The Shining is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I always watch different parts of it when I'm on a plane. Because they always have classics.
Okay.
And every time I'm on the plane, there's there's a lot of favorite scenes, but I always try to imitate the one scene when he goes, a little light tonight, isn't it, Lloyd? Yeah. And he's the bartending thing.
Yeah.
And of course, now you realize this is the rug.
Yeah.
That's genius.
I love it.
I want a rug.
I'll have to send you some links because I think they do like button-down shirts. The lady I bought it from on Etsy, I forget her name, but
who would even know
they have
that?
a shop.
I would love to walk around and go, excuse me, you notice what shirt I'm wearing? And it's just the rug and The Shining.
I had to flex.
I'm the only one that got it.
No, it's okay. I went to a horror con. It actually fits into Inner Child. So I went to a horror con last weekend called Creep IE Con. It's one of the biggest Inland Empire horror conventions. And I actually met Skeet Ulrich there and Dermot Mulroney from Scream. And, well, of course, Dermot and Skeet, they've done other projects like Riverdale and Dermot's doing, I think they're talking about My Best Friend's Wedding, Part 2 with Julia Roberts. But I didn't recognize that either, and I was like, no, it's from Stanley Hotel. Like, you guys don't get it.
The Stanley
You guys are
Hotel.
hard, like,
Isn't it the
icons.
Overlook?
Yes.
The Overlook
Stanley Hotel, yes, is what it's based on. I keep saying Stanley, but that's the inspo for the film.
What was the real hotel? It was called the Stanley?
Yeah, Stanley Hotel.
Really? I wonder if it still exists.
I think so.
That's got to be
I say people still do, like, YouTubers go there for, like ghost hunting, or
really?
We stay the night here.
But is it a hotel for, like, people going skiing?
Yeah, I think
I'm gonna
so.
have to
for the
Google
winter.
that, because that's a classic. I wonder if they really even had somebody just stay there during the winter like they did in the movie. I would say that's impossible.
Maybe.
Imagine getting snowed in and you can't leave. And who
terrible.
would take that job now? All right, so let's fast forward because we're on a different movie project.
Yeah.
We're talking about Inner Child, which is something that you wrote.
Yes, I wrote.
Full-length feature.
Yes, I did, and we did a sizzle back in October of last year. I actually had it's been a passion project for mine. Inner Child I wrote, like 10 plus years ago from a screenwriting class, and with feedback and with colleagues, the more I showed the script, I was getting positive feedback, or sometimes I had people like, oh, I have questions, can you feedback and ask questions. So it was like, kind of always hear with like a lot of writers, it was that one script I'd always come back to and write, no matter what I was doing. I was busy, working the 9-to-5 job. I was on set, directing a short or writing a short. I was always coming back to the script for Inner Child. And it was about 2 years ago. It was during the pandemic when I revisited the Inner Child script, and I was telling myself I want this to be my next feature film. I don't know why, but this script I have to make next. It was just looking at it again, reading it, and it was just like that spark lit up of I have to make this film next. Like it has to be my next one. I don't want to be the feature number 4 or 5. I want this to be like my third one. You know, I just have to make this. And
So the sizzle
developed.
reel,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's Tatiana worked on the sizzle.
she did. Tatiana
Makeup.
did makeup and hair.
We're talking about my producer, Tatiana.
Mm-hmm.
She also does hair and makeup, and of course, she does special effects.
Yeah.
Makeup,
Effects.
which means she creates creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Some scary ass ones.
She does, yeah.
It's
She
disgusting.
But I actually found.
She sent me a picture of this one guy dead on the ground, and the eye was on the floor.
Oh, nice.
How do you compliment somebody for doing something disgusting?
You're like,
What we say? Hey, this is
Real?
really great. What do you go? This is disgusting, and they go, oh, thank you.
yeah, I think the type of reaction you have that they're like, yes, okay, cool,
Yes.
nailed it.
You probably want them to say it's disgusting,
Or disturbing.
Oh.
I think I've heard that one.
disturbing.
But she actually funny as I found with the sizzle. So with Inner Child, I, this was like the first big project I was pitching to third party. So like your production companies, or nowadays with everything being online, I was just researching. It was like, what are the latest horror films that just came out? And you see companies like A24, they're producing like horror films, and it was so much pumping those out. Your Blumhouse. The other one's Jordan Peele's Monkey Paw. But it was, okay, well, those are definitely like more, I feel like A-lister companies. But I'm like, but who's like the people that like are working with like more of like, the budgets that are like, maybe under $1 million, 6 figures. And it was just, reading everything. I'm a firm believer, actor, you're behind the cameras. I think reading, the trades like Variety, or just being aware of what's going on in entertainment. I think that's your homework. You get to see which new companies are coming out, and where they just premiered a horror film like at Sundance or Austin. And that's what I was doing for about a year with me and the other producer on the project. And I want to say maybe like August of last year, we had one of our producers. And again, this is where, even director, I have to learn to put my ego aside and take the feedback. Because one of my producers, it's actually Paul Wheely. He did the music for the Terrifier films, which are massive now in the horror community. Paul, he sat down with me and another producer and partner back in August in 2023, and he said, he's like, yeah, can you go out and go make a sizzle? He's like, even if it's like a 30-second snippet, he's like, because he's like, I can't get anyone to read the script. They want to see something. He's like, I don't know if it's short attention span, or people just want to see, like, they know what you're doing as a filmmaker. And I remember he's like, I'm so sorry, I hope it doesn't offend you. I'm like, no, I'm glad you're telling me this, because I was thinking about doing that, and the fact this is what you give me feedback wise. Let's do it. Like, I'm gonna go and make a sizzle. And that's what we did. And I think I actually found your producer. I want to say, I think I found her on Facebook. We were Facebook friends. She was promoting this wonderful film. I love it, called The Mean One. It's the Evil Grinch.
Yes.
Evil Grinch.
The Mean One.
Yes.
It's disgusting.
It's
a good movie. Yeah. I think they're making good money, and she did the
it blew up.
The Grinch.
Yeah.
They can't say it's the Grinch. The Minch, the bitch, whatever the hell it is. It's a replica of the Grinch, and it is really well done. Really well done. I went out of my way to see that movie too. It took me an hour and a half to drive to a place where it was showcasing in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
And I went down there, and I'm like, wow. And then I cheered when her name came on the, what do they call it? A
credits.
solo card?
Yeah, the credits.
But she had her own card.
Oh, okay. She had her
Special effects by Tatiana Bluchel.
Very cool.
So she had that.
Okay.
So that's like how much,
she did,
how great you're going to feel when your name goes in the credits. It's by itself, directed by.
That's
they put
huge.
directed by at the end, right? Good for you.
That actually found her.
We're jumping around too fast. We need this inner child. I need to know about this movie. When is it going into production, and what's the? Can you talk about what it is?
I can, yeah. So after we shot the sizzle, back in October, I
You
started
explain
pitching that. Yeah. So sizzle.
A sizzle reel is like a calling card or the idea, a resume, but you watch it.
Yes.
Some people call it a proof of concept. Is that the same thing?
It is. I think proof of concept and sizzle, because that's a way of saying this is a short film of the feature. But typically with sizzles and concept, it's either, at least in my experience, what I've seen, you either take a scene from the script and film it, or you write something completely new just to give the idea of what to expect.
And hope that someone looks at it and says, you know what, let us give you a couple of million.
Yeah.
You go ahead and make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is that the hope and the goal?
So we actually did sign with one company, and it's for 100K. So we're definitely, I'm like, hey, I'll take that. Like, I remember, that was the first offer we had. So with the sizzle, I noticed, and this is me learning as like, even with the producer end, it's because, but I think when you're directing and writing, sometimes you're like, well, I know I can do this, but can't people believe me? Because, we're human. We're going to react that way. Or on the inside, I try to keep that like on the inside more. But with the sizzle, I, took that co-producer Paul's advice, and it was, no, I see what you're saying. Like, I get it because, I've done comedies and dramas. If I had a slate of previous horror film shorts, like I could see maybe being like, no, let's just go film it. But the sizzle was my way of dabbing into the horror genre and
All
the
right.
psychological
part.
part.
I want to see this sizzle reel.
Yeah, definitely.
So the movie that you're going to go into production,
yes,
called Inner Child.
yes.
That's your budget so far, because you never know what's going to happen once you start shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody could come out of the woodwork and go,
Yeah.
Tell us what this movie's about. Can you?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
So I will say it's a psychological horror film about a young woman and her ongoing battle with sleep paralysis. And she starts having visions of a dark figure. And she starts questioning, are these visions like, is it, part of my dreams? Is it nightmares? Or is this like I'm seeing ghosts? So that's what she's battling through the story. On top of, how it's affecting her relationships. She has, a distant, constrained relationship with her mother who she lives with. And then she also has this loving boyfriend who's trying to, have her open up to him. But he's also like, he's learning like, okay, when to not cross a boundary with your partner. And that's, something we are going to be filming this spring. So we had that team meeting for this past month with the producers. Let's just get up and film it. We're eager to get up and film it. And, I've, like many features, they take time to get made. But I feel if you have like that one person that's able to help out financially, you take that off.
That's a huge goal.
Yeah.
Put that money into the escrow,
Mm-hmm.
get your team together, get those auditions going, find out who you think is going to be able to carry this film. My opinion, most horror films, you don't really need that big of a star, because if you got a good storyline and you could scare the shit out of people,
Yeah.
I'm already thinking about what the inner child is. She's dreaming, but are we going to see those creatures floating around? Is that in there?
It is, yes.
Yeah, see.
And that's why I'd love.
Is there a dream with somebody running around on the ceiling?
It is. I could see.
I love that shit.
I could see, definitely. I mean, even I wrote this script, a few years ago, going back into like edits, whether I'm looking at the script like from a mechanical standpoint, like, do you really need to have this? Or it's like that saying, can we show this instead of the actor saying, a page of dialogue? Is that more effective? I still turn to other horror films for those inspo. So last script write I did was summer 2023. I watched Nightmare on Elm Street. I watched Suspiria, both the original and the remake, and Smile. I still turn to like other creators' content because you want to, see that inspo, whether it's story wise or creature.
My opinion is when I watch something, I'm like, please scare me.
Yeah.
Scare the fuck out of me. I want to scream.
Yeah.
And there are some that it feels like it's coming, but then it don't. Yeah. Everybody got the beginning of the movie where the cat scares you for a minute, and then later on you realize it wasn't the cat.
Yeah.
Nothing's ever going to scare me like The Exorcist. I have nightmares to this day about The Exorcist. I shouldn't have said the word because now I'm going to think about it tonight, and I'm not going to get any sleep. That movie was fucking scary.
That one does scare me.
But there are some scary-ass movies that work. And sometimes it seems like, the ones that make you think can scare you the most, too.
Yeah.
A lot of people seem to be having the creature run around on the ceiling these days.
Yeah.
Put them on the floor.
The creature or...
Well, let me ask you this, because this is something I want to know. You're so pleasant. You're so kind. What kind of a director are you? I mean, are you nice to everybody? Hey, in this scene, we're going to do this. Okay, you come from then that door, and you're going to walk this way. Okay, it's a little lit a little too high, if you can't tone it down a little bit, or you're like, what the fuck are you people doing? Come on now.
Oh, no.
Don't take advantage of me.
No, I actually was told recently by a colleague, and I was like sitting there for a day, like, is that a bad or good thing? He actually told me, it was before we had to go to a meeting. He was like, oh, you do great speaking to like people, actors or agents, managers. He's like, but sometimes I'm like, oh no, what? Am I coming off like too aggressive? He's like, no, you're just too professional. You can like, lean back. I'm like, wait, what? I was like, is that a bad thing or a good thing? But I did have that feedback recently. And I asked, it's a friend I've worked with for 10 years now. And they were just telling me like, look, you already have this person's interest. Like, stop overthinking. He's like, you overthink too much with the situation. But with directing, I always say, and I actually told our cinematographer for Inner Child, and I worked with them before too. They DP'd my second feature, which was like this comedy, bizarre, like kind of alter universe film. And that was a dark comedy satire. So this one was like, hey, this is a 180. This is a drama / psychological horror film. I am very more still reliant on directing the actor. I always tell my camera guy, I'm not going to tell you, you have to use, this lens and this and that. I'm like, that's not my field. Like, that's
I was
not
just
my
going to ask
expertise.
you, do you know cameras? Do you know the difference between the
I
red
do
and the
some,
35
yeah.
and the 45?
Yeah.
And that's a phone. You don't
Yeah.
shoot with the, do you know? Because I never really know.
I do. My lenses, not expertise. With directing, I typically will set up either like a mood board, or I'll tell the DP, like for this one, I said, I want you to watch these 3 films, like in terms of the look, the lighting, or this one, this is kind of more of like aligned with the Inner Child story. And actually, I think 2 of them they hadn't seen. And the references I gave my DP for Inner Child was Suspiria, in terms of the look, the Dario Argento film. And there's another film called Infinity Pool with Mia Goth. Mia Goth's like a very, scream queen of like our generation now. I said, well, this, I don't really care for the story, but visually it's so stunning. Like, watch it for visuals. I was like, you can even speed up if you need to do certain scenes. But that's how I work with, in terms of directing with the crew. I'm a firm believer of like, you bring on a DP. I feel the DP's there to, they're the director's anchor. The director might be like, because stuff happens on set. I've been in times where we lose location on set and you have to throw out your shot list or whatever you had in mind. And it's like, oh my God, how are we going to film this? We can't reschedule because it's the only day everyone can come together. And I've been in situations you have to turn to your DP and say, okay, well, this is what we have available. I'm going to go block the actors. I'm going to have them rehearse, and please watch as we're doing so and let me know.
Do you shoot it all?
We do, yeah.
No, you.
I don't. No, I don't.
No camera on your shoulder?
I did earlier short days, but it's fun.
Do you ever say, I want that dirty and I want this way and it should be a 2-shot and that's going to be the wide?
Mm-hmm. I do. I will give like my suggestions, especially if it is like, I just go off instinct. If it's like, I really want like the wide to be from here, or I really, really like want this, blurred behind the actor in that close up or medium shot. I definitely do. I would like to say, like, I definitely am, like, flexible when it comes to working with the crew and the actors on set. I think it's, especially nowadays, because with, like, horror films, you don't, like, with this Inner Child, I had a lot of third parties. I mean, we still got told no. I had some third parties say, you can make this film off 20 grand. You can make it off 10 grand. You really don't need that much money. So you learn, like, with the type of budget you get, no matter how big or small.
$100,000 to me is a good budget.
Yeah,
it's a great budget. Everybody can make a small amount of money. You could pay yourself, and you might have a hit. Mm-hmm. You put out $100,000 movie, maybe you'll make $250,000 or $500,000. You put it out in the market. Everybody loves a good horror movie.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know who's in it, as long as you get to watch. I'm hoping that half the projects that we have in the can are gonna go where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
I've been on a bunch of independent projects as a comedian, and I didn't have a lot of lines, didn't have a lot of dialogue until we got on set, and the director said, everybody, this scene is kind of falling flat. Mike, what would you do? And I says, let me improv.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Well, that's when you're working with people who have great chemistry, and they're like, all right, everybody throw their ego in the garbage, and let's see what happens. And then you ended up having a good time. I was on this one set, and the director was a woman, and she hired everybody, and I was friends with her, and we had Terry Polo on the set, and she's been in a
nice.
lot of big movies, and Robert Davi, he's been in a lot of movies, and Nick Totoro, they've all been in a lot of movies, and I really haven't been in. But in these one particular scenes, I didn't have a lot of lines, but at least I was in the scenes. Then all of a sudden, some people were arguing amongst each other.
Oh.
And they said, we have to have a set meeting. Everybody calm down, calm down. And everybody in the room. And some guy says to me, goes, Mike, now would be a good time to do some jokes. And I'm like,
Nice.
okay. So I started doing some stuff, and everybody started cracking up, laughing. All of a sudden, the producer goes, why don't we hand him more dialogue? Did you see what he just did?
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you.
No, that's the way it
I wouldn't mind
happens.
having some more dialogue.
You know, and I love that you brought up improv. I love when actors improv, even if they're going off script. I've had actors where they're like, I don't do improvisation. There was one actor I had where I did on my first feature. He's like, I don't improv because I get nervous. I do freeze. And I was like, well, you know what you just did back there in rehearsal? Like, yeah. I'm like, that was improvising. Like, that was not in the script. And did you notice I didn't say, what are you doing? His name was Sean. I'm like, Sean, you can't do that. I was like, I wanted to see what you did. Like, I was actually genuinely curious because I felt that heightened the scene more, or kind of like what you said with your director. I felt it made the character more interesting. Because I am a firm believer, you know, it's, I think, trusting your actors and seeing, like, they'll add, like, you know, that spice and that dazzle to that part.
You must be so pumped
Yeah.
that you raised a budget
It's still surreal.
in a business that is probably the most difficult thing to
It
do.
is, yeah.
Like an actor going out on audition, you're one in a million that you're going to get. That's like playing the lottery. But you did it. And this project's going to go into production.
Yes.
And it's
I'm
going to be a
excited.
hit. And then you know what we're going to do? We'll have you back on the podcast when you're making
nice.
millions of dollars. And I'll be like, Natalie, you owe me. you need to come back down the basement.
Yeah. Of course, I'll be back at the basement. And hey, other cast and crew involved. I'd love to get our lead actress on here. And I'm actually working with an adult actress and then the young girl that plays her. I mean, I'm so amazed. You know, they're both fantastic. They're up and comers. And even doing the sizzle back in October with your wonderful producer, I was like, how these girls, like, they're not famous. They're so good. So I
They'll
get
get there.
frustrated when I'm like, ooh, I want them to be like a big star.
They'll get there.
Yeah.
I got a lot of roles in projects just by doing the podcast, and I got a lot of roles in projects by being a stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And I enjoy getting work that way because at least by the time you get to the set, everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
And you're not going to go out of your way to impress everybody. You're just going to hit your mark and do the best that you can. I love being part of all stuff, especially now I have a good amount of followers to say, hey, guess what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Come and check this out. I always wanted to be that one character actor that's in the movie Aliens. And he's walking around looking for the cat, and he's going, Jonesy, Jones. And you see all the things happening in the chain and the water and the droplets, and you could see the creature in the background. I'm like, I want to do that.
That'd be fun.
I want to do that. So if you ever need me for that type of thing,
Definitely.
I want to be that creeper.
I would love to work with more of the creatures. And I'm hoping that's what Inner Child leads to. It's, you know, I've done, you know, this is my first long length horror film, and it's funny because I have all the like tattoos before we started.
I wanted to show everybody the one tattoo she has on the other arm is a very famous
and
actor.
This one's James.
What made
Dean.
you do James Dean?
So
Show, put it up.
I'm like, which way did I go? Oh, here it is. Wait.
James Dean. Somebody did a good artist. He looks like him.
And you know what? All my tats, I have about 9 or 10
Right.
same tattoo artists. And
yeah,
was actually referred by, his name's Johnny. He's starting a new shop, but I'll have to like find out the shop name. I'm actually going this month to get another tattoo from him. But you don't know with the tattoos, James Dean. I've been a big James Dean fan since the time I saw Rebel Without a Cause in junior high, and I was like, you know, that was always a goal of mine. I was in high school. I'm like, when I'm 18, I'm gonna get a tattoo of James Dean for my birthday. Chickened out. I was like, ooh, my mom's gonna kill me. I live under a room in our house. And during the pandemic,
in the basement.
I got it. Yeah, or basement. But yeah, no, I mean, I have a few tattoos. You know, definitely my tattoos. It sounds cliche. I always see them as, you know, another artist's work. It's just instead of hanging up
I
on the
love
wall,
it.
it's on your body somewhere.
It looks tremendous. It looks cool. I want to thank you so much for coming
Thank
down the
you.
basement and hanging since you drove all the way from the Inland Empire,
Yeah.
or wherever you said that you are now. But
Very close.
yeah.
LA County. Yeah. It was like a 10-minute drive, so it wasn't terrible.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's weird though, because I'm still like, oh God, what time would I be leaving if I was coming from Inland Empire?
I need you to tell everybody where they can find you on all social media so they can look at your work from your first works to your middle works to the last works to what
Yeah.
you're going to be doing with a project called The Inner Child, where she raised a solid budget
Thank
to
you.
make this project happen.
Yeah, and
Tell
I appreciate
everybody.
that. Definitely, I would say follow my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or X. It's called X now. You can check me out, my projects at Extra Ord Pictures on all those platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm also going to be reposting some old work because I'm getting my posters updated for some of my older short films. I'm kind of excited to show those because they're older projects, and a lot of people still haven't seen like my work I've done before.
You post up your older projects. Somebody
Yeah.
might say, "Oh my God, I never saw that," because we have something now called social media.
Yeah.
And you can take something from
Social
way back
media.
when that was never seen and put it all over social media. All of a sudden, people are like, "Wow, that's genius!" Like, oh man, I didn't.
You're like, I didn't have the platform back then.
Yeah.
So that's the nice part of social. I'm always like a hate love with it, but I gotta admit, I mean, I've connected with so many great creators, actors, other directors through something like Instagram.
Right.
So that's why I keep it personally. And it's also your resume. I think nowadays, I think we talked about that before. I've met more producers or casting directors say, "Oh, well, what's their social following? Or are they like the type of actors going to be blasting, every detail about this project?" So it's still very useful, using those sites. I think work personal.
Well, I want to thank my guest Natalie
Thank you.
Rodriguez from her making her way all the way through. Well, it's actually not that much traffic today because
Yeah.
it's Sunday. But thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
over and allowing everybody to listen to what it's like to be a female director in a world that's one of the toughest businesses to be in, almost no matter who you are. But she's making a run for it. She's doing some successful, great shit. And we can't wait to see what's going to happen with Inner Child. I keep on saying that because I'm hoping I'm not going to get a phone call. Mike, by the way,
Yes.
there's this character. And I'm like, yes, I'll do it.
Yes.
Mike,
no,
we didn't
of
even tell you
course.
what. No, that's okay. I want, but you got to wear. No, I kept.
Like, yes. Okay, I don't care where.
I want to work with you now before you get to the Oscars.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why we do this. I mean, I've known your work. I mean, that's why when, your producer reached out, I was like, yes, I'm there. When?
Yeah.
When?
Okay.
Like right now, today? In an hour?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for coming
Thank
down
you.
the basement. And thank my guest, Natalie Rodriguez, for coming
thank
over.
you.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Remember, everybody. Oh, we want to thank my producer, Tatiana Blueshell, who
Thank
we
you,
spoke about throughout tonight's podcast. She does a great job. She finds the coolest guests, and we make sure we do everything just right for everybody. You can watch us all the time, every Tuesday night o'clock, exclusively on my YouTube channel, which is Mike Marino Live on YouTube. And of course, we're on Spotify if you want to listen, but you can actually watch us on Spotify these days too. So let's make America Italian again. You know my motto.
Yeah.
And we say, you don't know nothing, you don't see nothing, and you don't say nothing. And how do I end every single one of my episodes? By always saying the same thing along with my guest. Don't take no shit from nobody. You ready?
Yes.
Don't take no shit from
anybody.
nobody. She said anybody. She's the first person in 300 episodes that said anybody.
I want to say nobody. We can redo it.
You know why? Because she's a director, and she directed herself. She said, I ain't doing what he wants.
No.
I'm doing what I want, and we're leaving it like that.
All right.
I love it. She said
You can always
anybody.
blurb it.
No, we're keeping that. Thank you so much. Hey folks, thanks for watching live from my mother's basement. I hope you enjoyed the show. And if you did, hit the word like and leave me a really cool comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss any of the future episodes, and you can watch some of the funniest videos on the internet. You can also listen to the show on Spotify or your favorite podcast app.